What's going on, everyone? It's Marco Hanna, and today I want to talk about smartphone buying based on cameras. Now, we as social humans like to take photos and videos of our everyday lives, so we typically put cameras at a pretty much high spot in our priority list when we're talking about buying a brand new phone. The best camera is the one you always have, which happens to be all of our cell phones. And in my opinion, two of the best mobile phone cameras live in two different devices right now. One is the Samsung Galaxy S6 and also the S6 Edge, and the other one is the LG G4. Let's go ahead and find out which of these two has the best camera and finally claim a winner between the camera smartphone battle of 2015. Now, before we dive into too many pixels, let's first look at the hardware these two devices pack in the camera department. Our main focus are the rear shooters for obvious reasons. The Samsung Galaxy S6 is packed with a 16 megapixel sensor for size of 1/2.6 inches. The aperture is rated at f1.9, which is fairly large for a mobile phone. The camera also features optical image stabilization to get those super slick, smooth videos. On the LG G4, things are a little more interesting. First off, it also features a 16 megapixel sensor for size of the same 1/2.6 inches, but its aperture is slightly larger at f1.8. The camera also packs in optical image stabilization, but it also has one more trick up its sleeve, and that is this little black dot on the back. That's a laser. The technology is called laser autofocus, and it was debuted on the LG G3 last year, but it's improved on the LG G4. It assists in the autofocus, which means it should be very fast. Now it's time to dive into the photos and videos. The Samsung Galaxy S6 takes some simply stunning photos. Its HDR mode, being one of the finest, can handle various lighting situations, and its focus is always tack sharp. The image looks very pleasing, not too sharp, but also not soft at the same time. It just looks great. Now, one thing that I've noticed is the S6 has a little bit of difficulty with super different lighting situations. For example, a shadowed area compared to a very bright sun-filled sky. But with HDR mode on, it copes pretty well. And speaking of HDR mode, this is one of the fastest HDR processing times I've ever seen on a device. It's even faster than some standalone cameras. Now, going over to the video side, 4K video is basically just as good as the S6's photos. It's smooth, crisp, full of details and sharpness. It takes beautiful video that I honestly could use to make YouTube videos if I wish to do so. Its stabilization is top notch compared to basically any device in its own class. And one strange thing that I found is dynamic range in video mode looks slightly better than it does in photo mode on the Galaxy S6. Now moving over to the LG G4. Photos are pretty much fantastic off the G4, and in my opinion, I think dynamic range is a little better on the G4 than the S6. It has the capability to capture more data from different types of light. But there's one strange thing that I found on the LG G4 camera, and that's in-camera sharpening. I think the G4's images look a little bit more artificial when it comes to its sharpness. Now, this is completely subjective to my liking, but I kind of like the aesthetics and the look of the image on the S6, even though it has more dynamic range off the LG G4. 4K video on the G4 is also very impressive, but dynamic range does decrease just a bit over the G4's photo mode. And to put in plain words, it's just not as good as the S6's 4K UHD video. Now, the video itself is pretty good. It has good detail, good color, but it's slightly less sharp. Now, also, the stabilization on the G4 is a pretty big turnoff for me. It's there and it works well, but it's just not as seamless or well executed as it is on the Galaxy S6. But again, the footage is something I would find completely acceptable for my own videos, minus the crazy looking OIS, obviously. So which is the king of mobile photography and videography? Well, it's not as simple as you think. This is a highly subjective test, and it depends on my liking. But to me, if I want to shoot photos and videos and perhaps put them up on the internet, my vote goes to the S6. Why? Because I'm mainly a video person. Now, if I wanted to take more photos than videos, I would completely go LG G4, one for that extra dynamic range, and it also has an amazing front-facing camera. But I want to know which device you would pick for your best camera phone in the comments below. Would you go for the S6 or the G4? Make sure to leave your answer below. Also, subscribe if you haven't already, and give this video a thumbs up. And as always, my name is Marco Hanna, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.